The following views are strictly the views of JHebert and do not represent the views of everyone that is a part of FTW Productions or works with FTW Productions.
Straight from JHebert Studios, James covers the good, the bad, and the ugly, and gives his perspective on things. Now here is your host, JHebert.
Well, here we are. It's just surreal. Really, like this really does feel surreal. It doesn't feel natural at all that I'm saying this, but I know this is what needs to be done. For those who missed open mic night on Saturday, and for those who missed the watch parties for Thursday, and specifically for Saturday, because I had a lot more to say that in real time, pretty much. I'm sorry, Sunday, because it really, I recorded it on Saturday, Saturday, and then released it on Sunday during the day before Labor Day. Long and short of it is, I'm done with professional wrestling modern day. I am done with covering modern pro wrestling. For those who don't know, and haven't really been keeping up with the news, first off, good for you. Seriously, save yourself the headache. But if you're curious enough, I am going to fucking inform you. So I'm going to kind of give you the brief notes. If you saw JHebert's side of things, episode 3, you already know the situation between Punk and the Elite. There has been developments since, and Punk was rumored to come back for the debut of AEW Collision. Punk returned. He cut a shoot promo on the Bucks, which we all thought was an angle, hoping for things to work out. And hopefully that if Punk re-signed, or came back rather, and the Elite re-signed with 5-year deals and all this shit, that things between the two sides would be better. Long and short of it, Punk had a really bad week, losing 2 co-workers in the form of Wyndham Rotunda and Bray Wyatt, one of which he worked with and another one he idolized. From there, he tried to set up yet another meeting with the Elite that was supposed to take place in Atlanta, Georgia. And Tony Khan basically was a wimpy little bitch and wasn't matter-of-fact with them, and the Elite just basically said, no, I don't want to freaking meet with them. So, Punk tried to work it out with them again. Meeting was denied, so he stayed an extra couple days in Chicago with his wife and dog. He goes to fly in with nobody. Has no friends at that point, because they're already in London at this point. And he lands in Heathrow Airport. And the travel agent who is in bed with the Young Bucks, which has now been confirmed, by the way, fucked with his travel and didn't give him a ride just to piss him off even more. So that left Punk with two options. Either get an Uber and or Lyft, and in that traffic with all those wrestling fans wandering the streets of London, forget about it. Or go and take the tube. Which could have been extremely dangerous and extremely chaotic for him, to say the least, especially with no fucking security. But luckily he picked the right cart, because everybody that was there was nice, and a guy was actually helping Phil Brooks get to Wembley Stadium, and he actually took a picture with that said fan. And Punk had to say, hey, guess I have to take this fucking picture now, which, you know how Punk is when it comes to free pictures, you know, and shit like that. But he was doing him a solid, so he figured he probably owed the guy. So that was Phil Brooks' week before Jack Perry went on worldwide pay-per-view like it was fucking amateur hour, and then screamed, you see this? Rio Glass, Cry Me a River. Yeah. Now, this is worth mentioning, and this is worth pointing out, that, you know, you're not supposed to use real glass. In fact, I'm going to show the reason why you don't use real glass in any situation, and why Punk was right in the entire time, regardless if he fucking punched him or not. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to look this guy up. Blako561. I'm actually going to stay subscribed because the dude's pretty chill. Really, I mean, deathmatch wrestling, which is funny enough, is the stuff I was least interested in, but somehow I find his documentary of the style fascinating. So, here we are. We're gonna go in here, and what we're gonna do is we are going to watch exactly why you don't use real glass right here. And this is coming from MTV Live, I believe, for a promotion called ICW, which is, I think, the Florida-based ICW. But this is the ICW that you're all thinking of that is from the UK, but there is also one in Florida, so yeah. You'll see the blood here. But yeah, this is why you don't. And I've been mentioning this as like my prime example. I've used Goldberg smashing his hand through real glass as well as like a most well-known example of why you don't use real glass, but and also I think Shane McMahon at one point where that was just a freak accident, but this is the reason I use this.
They're saying it's over. It's over.
Got one last replay at the end.
Want you to pay attention right here to Cruel's arm. Because he's gonna get a plane. Oh wait. Hold on, wait a minute.
Angle, you could basically see it slice him.
There it is, right there. This is why you don't use real glass.
When that window broke, that big ass piece hit him right in the shoulder. Cut the living fuck out of him. I slowed it down and zoomed in.
It absolutely scarred that entire bicep.
There's one more
to the
shot
point it
of
cut
this
it like
angle, super
legitimately
zoomed
open.
in and slowed down.
You'll see right there. Look at this.
There's one
I
more
want
shot
everybody
of
to
this
look
angle.
at this.
Super
Seriously,
zoomed in and slowed down.
And this is why I'm on Punk's side regardless. That is a chunk of his skin. That's a chunk of Mads Kruger's skin coming off his body from getting real glass like cutting him. Now, this is a bring your own fans weapons match, and the idiot in this particular clip, the fan in question, he basically, long and short of it, I mean, he basically tried to put like a fake glass sticker on real shower pane glass, and that's how he was able to get away with it, and they couldn't tell the difference. So, fuck that guy, number one. you know. And I won't be the only fan I call out either, I'm sure. And I'll be real with y'all. This is going to be an unfiltered JHebert side of things. I'm not going to fucking pull any punches. I'm going to be calling people out. Because I really don't give a fuck. I really don't. I really don't anymore. I have no reason to. And I figured if I'm going to have a last podcast as to why, there's multiple reasons. It's not even just the Punk situation. But it is definitely the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, fast forward to after he says, it's real glass, Crimea River, during the All-In match, which I showed you a great example as to why you don't do that. Jack Perry shoulder barred Punk, which Punk then returned with a fucking full-on pie face. Jack Perry then charged right at him after he got physical with him. Even though in the court of law, if this was to ever get brought into court, if what is to be believed is true, Punk is in the right because he shoulder barged him. So he started the physical altercation. Nevertheless, Punk locked in a guillotine choke, and a monitor fell on Tony Khan. Tony Khan was screaming for Punk to let go, and he screamed right back at him, I quit. Now, mind you, this is after the rough week he's already had. He goes and has a full-on argument with Tony Khan, said this place is a freaking shit zoo, and not like the dog. Samoa Joe had to calm him down. He's like, we got 81,000 people in here. We gotta put on a match here, please. Like, you want to do something after the fact? You want to fucking leave here? It don't matter to me, but seriously, like, we need you to go out there. So Punk comes out there visibly frustrated after the encounter. He has the match with Joe. He waves goodbye to the UK crowd, which is eerie looking back at it now. And he goes to the back. And that is the last time you will see CM Punk in professional wrestling again. Or at the very least, that's definitely going to be the last time I see him in pro wrestling again. Fast forward to when they get into the back. Miro and Punk. You know, they check in on each other, and Miro goes to him. Hey, what the hell happened? He's like laughing, chuckling. I don't know. You want to fight me too? And he said, yeah, sure. Let's take it out back, bud. They laughed it off. They joked, and then they walked away. Punk then went to AEW security and asked, would it be easier at this point with all the heat I got on me to stay in this arena, in the stadium, or should I just go back to my hotel room? The way security basically worded it is, we're not forcing you to leave, but it would probably be best if you do. Punk agreed. Jack Perry was by this point already kicked out of the arena after he was let go out of the guillotine choke. So then after the show, Punk ordered Nando's for talent he was meeting with after the show for a job well done in what should be remembered for as the biggest professional wrestling show of all time, or one of the. And instead, because of the drama backstage, and because people really didn't want Phil Brooks involved anymore, constant pressure from the locker room, constant pressure from the IWC, and constant pressure from people who just generally did not like Phil Brooks, including apparently a legal team, which I buy as a bullshit excuse, and you know it is, Tony. Sorry. Calling you out too. That led to Punk's firing on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock p.m. And then Tony said that it was because he was in fear of his life. And I find that absolutely hilarious, because if you were in such fear of your life, you would have fired the guy right then and there. But you didn't, and you kept him around for 6 days on pay. So, they kind of nipped that in the bud. Fuck off, Tony. Sorry, if you people don't like that opinion, it's not an opinion. It's fucking fact. You don't keep somebody around for 6 days if you were in fear for your life. He was made to feel like he was in fear for his life. Give me a fucking break. Sorry. Like, dude, I had people that were worse, 10 times worse, that I had to deal with in my lifetime than you ever will in your entire career. Punk having a monitor fall on you was the least of your problems. Still is. But I digress. As one Noah Foster would say. Yeah. That was the story. The context for the Jack Perry and CM Punk altercation, which I did forget. This stems back from an incident that happened at a Collision taping, which got him sent home and Christopher Daniels sent home. That also involved him wanting to use real glass to write himself off from a segment because he wanted Hook to put him through a real pane glass window of a car, which Punk said absolutely fucking not, after management had already told Jack Perry, we'd rather you not. And Jack Perry basically just said, fuck you, I'm gonna do it anyway. So, yeah. That's why the altercation even took place. That's why Jack Perry went in front of the world, in front of millions of people, and said, real glass, cry me a river. Yeah. That whole bullshit. So, yeah. 2 days before All Out, or a day, not even, a day before All Out, he's fired. And that was bullshit. And I made a brash decision at first. I will fully admit that it was a brash decision at first. I said I'm done with pro wrestling. And I was doing it like out of nowhere. Making the brash decision. I quit Jeff shit immediately on the spot. Not because I dislike Jeff. Jeff Meacham has been nothing but amazing to me. And amazing to Noah. And amazing to JJ. And quite frankly, JJ's been nothing but amazing to me. So it had nothing to do with these guys. Love them to death. Jeff especially. He's been very supportive of my decision from jump. Which I very much appreciate if you're watching this, Jeff. So, yeah. I mean, this was I'm explaining the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm going to be going into more detail as to why I'm gone. But this is my brass decision was after Punk was gone and in the way he was dismissed, I was bullshit. You guys will notice that as the watch-along of Collision was happening, and even before then, I was beyond pissed. To the point I pissed Johnny, Star, and Jack off. Kuzon. And, no, that wasn't an inside joke. That was just fucked up words, to be fair. Don't come after me. Sorry, Kaz. Sorry, Jack. But yeah, no. I even snapped at him because I was just so fucking pissed. And, it was one of those things where I was just gonna do shit and then ask apologies after. Which, you know, isn't great, admittedly. But it's what I did. So I will say that's my bad. Genuinely, and I am sorry for that. I will just straight up apologize for that on the air to both Johnny and Jack. Because they didn't deserve that wrath. But I was pissed. So, wasn't really thinking rationally at that point. But what really kind of set me in a path where, no, this is not a brass decision at all. Like, I gotta be done. As we're doing Collision, and I hear the reasoning for Punk's termination from Tony Khan's lying ass mouth, Another millionaire in wrestling you can't trust. Who would have fucking figured? Yeah, I mean every word of that. Give me my fucking friends my royalties. Thanks. If not, fuck you. Bye. Not really a joke. Halfway joking this time. Especially with how much I helped you. So, yeah. I mean, he says that about Phil, and then I see the depressed Chicago crowd right at the top of the hour, to which is being, the crowd is being amplified for the people who are cheering and making noise, to make it sound like the crowd is into it. I'll never forget seeing the face of Aubrey Edwards looking miserable, holding up the trios titles for Billy Gunn, the Acclaimed, and for Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed. When she had that face, I knew I was done. Because that woman's a genuine sweetheart. And to see her that upset fucked me up. I can't do it anymore. I've seen that too many times with other people. I just can't do it anymore, man. I really can't do it anymore. That was it. That was really it. I mean, the Punk stuff was like the straw that was going to make me take a break regardless. This just made me say, no, compromise this shit to a permanent end. So that's really what it is. And it's not the only reason. I mean, the last week was enough. I mean, we had lost, as I said, Wyndham Rotunda, who was also a sweetheart of a guy who wasn't even getting into his prime of his career yet, and the prime of his life. He just had 2 daughters with JoJo. He was about to get married. And this is where I start calling people out because I don't care anymore. You can fight me after, because they deserve to get called out on this bullshit. Don't care if it happened in the private chat or not. Fucking Virtue. You know, he like an asshole, regardless if he apologized or not is irrelevant. Like, just regardless if he did, I couldn't give a shit. I don't believe his apology is genuine for this. Sean Ross Sapp, as everybody knows, confirmed, straight up confirmed, that Bray Wyatt died, and the reasons he died, and that it was via a heart attack in his sleep, to the point he was so on the money that TMZ then reported it. Now, this is before TMZ reported it, so because Sean said it, for those who don't know, Sean Ross Sapp and Virtue apparently have beef. He said something outrageous on Twitter, but basically along the lines of, man, it's really a shame that everybody takes what these rumors and news sites say for seriously, especially when it comes to the death of a beloved figure in wrestling. Disgusting. It's essentially what he said, and it was clearly a fucking dig at Sean Ross Sapp. He said one rest in peace thing to Bray Wyatt, and I think Terry Funk also. And then the rest was just shitting on AEW and WWE and just whatever. Just basically being a nuisance online. Including to Sean. He sends the tweet in the No DQ review group chat, to which Jeff says, knowing Sean like I fucking know him, this tweet cannot be anything else but accurate. And for those who don't know what that implies, Sean is very good friends with the DiBiase family, listen to me. The Wyndham Rotunda family. I'm thinking of the DiBiase's because IRS Mike Rotunda. He's very good friends with the Rotunda family and just Wyndham's family in general. So this was a fucking really hard one for him. And just for everybody that loved Bray. And despite logic and reason, like, and right, let's just say the hypothetical that Virtue was correct. Okay, great. Why? When was that the fucking time, David? When was that the fucking time? You tell me how that was at all appropriate, even if he happened to be wrong in his report. Which he wasn't, by the way. But even if he was. Like, if Dave Meltzer, and I've criticized how he's handled that entire Punk situation, and he's just as guilty as any. But seriously, if I was still doing this shit after this crap, which I'm not going to, but if I was, I wasn't going to shit on Dave Meltzer if, say, like, Kenny Omega passed away. And he got a report wrong on how he died, right? Like, I'm not going to fucking shit on him because even if he got it wrong, it ain't the time of the or the fucking place, period. It just isn't. So, he sent a tweet as to what, did you read what I said? Read the tweet. Very sarcastically to Jeff. And then just said, did you read Sean's tweet? With a very brilliant clapback, which showed evidence that he's friends with the DiBiase family. To which then Virtue goes on this fucking tirade to where he still has this beef with this guy. For God knows, for whatever goddamn reason. And I'm just like, okay. Fuck you. You fucking prick. This is no longer Virtue the character, like you've been trying to portray all these years. No, this is just David the person. This is the person behind Virtue saying this shit. Because you couldn't fucking deal with somebody calling you out on your shit over what I'm sure was just basically borderline harassment, which you do every fucking day on Twitter. And he didn't appreciate it, and so he fucking responded and clapped back to you. Thought you wanted the attention, Virtue. Apparently not. You say good publicity is bad publicity, but when it came to Sean Ross Sapp and what he said about you 2 years ago, when Wyndham Rotunda passes away and he reports on the death and he actually has the inside scoop because he's friends with the family, man, you really took that to heart somehow. Really just couldn't get over your fucking petty bullshit for just one day. To mourn the loss of a family man. Yeah, fuck you. And fuck the horse you rode in on. I have no respect for you as a person. I have no respect for you as a content creator. And I have less respect for you in general. After that fucking bullshit. The minute he said everything he said and said that tirade about Sean Ross Sapp in the group chat, and I couldn't even fucking tell you everything he said, and I'm not going to leak those DMs because there's really no point. I don't really fucking want to watch the conversation again, to be honest. I fucked off and left the group of No DQ Review. This is a week before the Punk bullshit, just to put this in fucking perspective. Like, a lot of this shit happened back to back, really. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the major reasons I wanted to be done, is because he's not the only one that gets fucking toxic in this line of work. And I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. Hell, we did a whole podcast on Open Mic Night with the two MIKEs, not the MIC. You know, we talking about the toxicity of the IWC and how it's ruined professional wrestling. I saw Mike being done pretty much then on, really. He did, really, I felt, and really looking back on this, I was forcing people to do shit they didn't really want to do. And they were only doing it because they were friends with me. And not necessarily WYW, because that's all something we're passionate about, but retros, wrestling period, any watch parties, any of this. Which is why I canceled the watch parties after All Out, by the way. Which the last one will be airing after you see this. It's sad. It really is. It's very sad. It's not great. It's just, it's toxic everywhere. It's not even just Twitter. Everybody just uses Twitter because that's the flavor of the month that everybody just wants to attack the app for because it's X now. Like, it's on Instagram too. It's on Facebook. I've seen it on Facebook long before I ever saw it on Twitter. It's a cesspool on Facebook. And it's just, my feed was always riddled with this fucking negativity. And not because I chose to. I probably subscribed to some stuff that was negative, but over time, it just started getting way more analyzed, way more critical, way more fucking all this shit. And because there was so much critical analysis, and because it was just a bunch of hardcore fans, for lack of a better term, jerking each other off, because I don't know how else you could really say it, everybody just could not get along, even though they were arguing about the same points. It came down to be politics, really. It just feels like politics has overrun the business to the point where it cannot get past its own bullshit. And the reality is, we already deal with that enough in the real world. Why do we tune into any form of entertainment? To escape from that bullshit. And really, I mean, the CM Punk and Elite drama has been a 365-day never-ending nightmare, really. Over and over and over and over and over again. And it was just fucking unbelievable. It just wouldn't stop. And it was just negative on both sides, and there was no compromise. There was very few people like me, like the boys on Open Mic Night, just Alex Central. There's probably a few others I'm forgetting, but there were few and far between of us saying that either fire all of them or bring them all together in a room and say, let's do business here. Let's let bygones be bygones and let's do this shit. In one shape or form or another. Depending on who you were listening to, they'd say it in a screaming manner. Some people would say it in a calm manner. On and on and on. Depends on who you listen to. But there was a lot of people saying the same thing. And it just fell on deaf ears with Tony, and it fell on deaf ears with pretty much both sides, it feels like. It really does. I'll commend Punk for at least trying. Kenny as well, Kenny Omega, for at least doing it and actually making amends with Punk at the New Japan show. That one time. Can't think of anything else. I really can't think of another time. Where any member of the Elite was even conversating with Phil Brooks. So it's just a never-ending nightmare, and again, overanalyzing, overcritical thinking, always overthinking shit. To the point where I was starting to do it. I just kind of became molded by this bullshit, and just kind of did it by association. And that's what a lot of our content is like when it comes to wrestling. We're really no different than any other goddamn podcasting platform on YouTube, and they probably get like tens of millions of views before we do. I mean, when your market is so oversaturated with all the inner workings of wrestling, and it's more about the behind the scenes drama than it is about what the fuck is going on screen. And everybody says, well, WWE isn't like that right now. It will. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with WWE. I've seen it happen with TNA. I've seen it happen with AEW now. You cannot escape it one way or the other. It's a never-ending cycle of drama-related news, rumors, headlines, whatever the fuck it is. That'd be, honestly, pro wrestling now is like me, like, as a hypothetical, and this is a dramatic example, but, like, if I was to sit down and watch Avengers Endgame, and then the person that's acting as Thanos just cuts a shoot promo on the guy playing Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., for being a misogynistic piece of shit drug addict. It's essentially the equivalent. I mean, what the fuck? Like, that takes you out of the movie. Well, this isn't what I fucking signed up for. And by the way, I'm not saying Robert Downey Jr. is or isn't. I'm not saying he is, and even if he was, it's none of my business anyway. I'm just using a dramatic example for dramatic effect. But that's essentially what it is. And it's like, wrestling, we're the only type of entertainment that just lets this shit fly because we just do. Like, oh yeah, blend reality in with the fiction and then just make that the storyline, and then I think that's what we were trying to get the Elite and Punk thing to do, and then over time you just didn't care about it more. You cared about it less and less because they clearly didn't want to get along, but we kept holding out hope and wanted to hold on to one last beacon of hope, especially after a show like All In. And then one of the worst possible results could fucking happen. One of the sides get fired and not the other. The worst possible scenario. I would have said the same thing if the Elite got fired and Punk wasn't fucking gone. Honestly. Especially when you consider the Elite started the company. So, that wouldn't have been great either, and I would have fucking been tuning out and been done. Because how are you going to replace those guys? How are you going to replace those EVPs? But the solution was not to fire Phil either. And I think a lot of people want to criticize, Punk for how he handles his stuff, but he really only reacts to what's being done to him. And whether it's wrong or right, I'm not saying it is. Lord knows, you saw it in my episode a few episodes back. I said as much that it was wrong place, wrong time. It sucked. That was the worst timing you could have done that ever. And regardless, the Elite never should have busted down his fucking door and then injured his poor dog. Shouldn't have happened. But it did. So yeah, man. I mean, just drama after drama, man. And it was going on for months. It's been going on for years. Decades even, really. I'm tired of it. I really am. One of the things, going back to Punk real quick, I think there are two type of people in here, There are people, and this is really the reality of it. There are people who will defend CM Punk to the nth degree, no matter what, like a Jim Cornette, which I've also eviscerated on this very podcast, and absolutely against the Elite. And then there are going to be people, and he knows this because I've directed him, so please don't make a big deal out of it than it already is. But Josh Mansfield, who want to see Punk's head on a swivel, metaphorically speaking, and want him fired and want him gone. And there's no in between. There's no fire all of them or fire none of them. And get it all on. Or at least not enough of it. And I told Josh as much. I said I think the way you handle that shit is not. It's very counterintuitive to our faith as well. Because I was raised Catholic. I know he's definitely raised Catholic, and it's completely counterintuitive. You know, if how do you? And that's another thing that really made me dumb with this whole shit with wrestling. It's like, how are we all supposed to move on when you cannot forgive a person for fucking up and making a brutal mistake? And even then, this mistake was minimal compared to what people have done in the past. Like, Edge committed adultery with his best friend's wife, and Matt Hardy was fired for it. And they still freaking came back and worked together because Vince sat him in a room and grabbed the ring by the balls. Another case, Benoit Sullivan and that whole freaking feud back in WCW with Woman and all that. Essentially, like that was probably worse than Matt Hardy and Edge, quite frankly. Considering the circumstances, especially if you hear if you believe in the rumors of what Sullivan was doing to Nancy. And Benoit and Sullivan still work together. So much so that Sullivan championed Benoit to be the champion just to keep him around in WCW. Like, it's just... And I could probably go on and on and on. There's Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair as well. Like, that whole debacle from a couple years ago. Like, there's been so much worse. So many worse cases of just unprofessional conduct and just immoral things that have happened. Freaking Nick Gage of all... Like, Nick freaking Gage robbed the bank. And he came back, changed his ways for the better, and became a better person. They're treating this guy like I treated Jeff back in when he got the last DUI, the recent DUI, which was back in 2020, and I ranted on Talk Wrestling about it. Like, he was like everybody was treating Punk like he was Jeff Hardy that day. And they would not let it go. They let the Jeff shit go immediately. I couldn't even believe that or fathom that. Because, like, legitimately he could have killed somebody. And we figured out a way where he could, still perform and not drink anymore. It would require some, watch episode, Indie Force episode 26 to find out how it is. But... Because Lord knows we're not going to be doing another Indie Force. And again, I'm going to get to programming notes in a minute because so much is going to be changing. But I digress. Back to my original point. It's like... How do you just... If the mistake doesn't really fit the crime, can we, really, can we just not give people chances anymore? Can we not be human? Or do we have to be perfect beings all the goddamn time? And if the answer is yes, then okay. That's unrealistic. But if that's what makes you sleep at night, I guess more power to you. I don't see how that's realistic. And Punk is just told, no, we're not forgiving you. Much like they did with Cody Rhodes. And I dealt with that whole debacle as well, and that pissed me off. And not that necessarily the fact that he was back in the WWE, but the fact that he left something that he genuinely was helping build into a juggernaut, and he had to leave it because of the same shit that's happening with Punk now. Punk was just more vocal about it. I think we can all come to the conclusion that, no, you fucking ran Cody off. And then Cody, you know, the shit with WrestleMania this year made me stop watching WWE altogether when I really, really wanted to get back into it. And then the Endeavor merger happened. And again, said I was going to call people out. Not going to fucking pull punches. Not going to. Don't care her anymore. I was allowed to fucking voice my frustrations on WWE Aftershock. And I made a point to say Triple H is not going to last. Right? Or that was my initial point. What the hell makes us think that he won't be let go just like they did Bischoff and Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman? And it's just like I was, you know, screaming my head off, admittedly. And, you know, I was shitting on it. And maybe that was part of my problem. Maybe I gotta call myself out on that too, because I was just so fucking angry about it. But, you know, at the same time, I wasn't yelling at Chris. I was yelling about the situation with Vince being back at all. Which we were all in agreement on anyway that it would have been a bad thing. But because I said Triple H is going to be driven out of the company somehow, some way, I think Chris, as just because it happened one time doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. And then I said, we've seen this happen over and over again with Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. We've seen him fire people and use them as scapegoats before. I don't see this being any different. And he asked me, is he going to fire Triple H? You really think he's going to fire Triple H? And I said, yeah. And he said, no, that's bullshit. That's stupid. Don't be that dense. Don't be that dense. Now, it still bugs me. I ain't gonna hold you, Chris. It still fucking bugs me, and I think your apology is kind of worthless. I do. But you did apologize, and in the moment I accept it. So, we watered her under the fucking bridge, but if I'm gonna fucking talk about it, I'm gonna talk about it, all of it, and I'm not fucking pulling back either. I'm not pulling punches. I'm making this a nuclear bomb. I want nothing to do with pro wrestling anymore, because this is the type of shit that it does. It just makes people divisive, it makes people angry, myself included, and it just goes to shit. It goes to shit. There's no understanding. And the people that do want understanding, they get sucked in the fucking whirlwind of misery too. Like myself. Whether my intentions are good or not. You know, and that's not even touching on what happened with Kota Ibushi in New Japan with fucking Gato sexually assaulting him and those allegations. That's not even talking about how the cartel are in bed with wrestling promotions in Mexico, and in Japan there's the freaking what do you call it, the Yakuza still in bed with the freaking, you know, Japanese wrestling promotions, and just, you know, people that died way too young, people that I've seen that I still get scarred by and still have to, like, relive those days, not in a good way either. The pandemic from a couple years ago, which was such a hard thing to fucking even sit through half the goddamn time, and I was only doing it because I believed in AEW and what they're doing. I don't anymore. I don't believe in any goddamn wrestling company anymore, which is why I'm fucking out ski. But, yeah, I mean, dude, just over and over and over again. And there's just something. There's always something. And there's always something to bitch about. And there's always something to complain about. And it is never good enough. Somebody has to bitch and moan. Somebody. Like, to the point where it brings out the worst in people, and it just happens over and over and over again. And to the point where we've seen people die via suicide because of it. Don't believe me? Look at Daphne. Don't believe me, look at Hana Kimura. I'm worried that Scott Colton is next. Colt Cabana. Regardless if he fucked up or not, and trust me, with that Punk podcast, he did. But fuck me if he's gotta be feeling like absolute shit. If I was in his shoes, I sure would. Maybe he doesn't. I'm hoping he doesn't, because it really isn't all of his fault. You know? But, I mean, especially even if it was, he's got to move on and just got to own that and just try to move on. You know, you don't have growth unless you move on from it. And again, it's just... I'm just worried for him. Because we've seen it happen with other people that have been criticized and heavily hurt. I saw it happen with Rhea Ripley not too long ago, this year. Her fucking aunt died. And some asshole on Twitter had to just be a dickhead. And say some crazy ass shit about her in a time where her grandmother passed away. And this is after she already reamed out fans for shoving pictures and shit in her face and whatever at the airport to sign. Just so they could sell it on eBay. Or Amazon or whatever the fuck. It's just non-stop negativity now. And bless Noah for being able to shut that shit out as much as possible. I hope he maintains that. I really do. Bless you, my friend. Seriously. Because you're the only one that does it right. And I tried and I couldn't. I have to cut this shit to cold turkey because I'm too empathetic sometimes for my own good. Again, look, man, I called out a lot of people. I normally don't do that, but, like, there are people that don't have a lot of empathy for certain people, and I just think it's kind of gross. You know, I really do. I think that's one of the biggest problems, you know, with the IWC. Fucking, you know, here's another example. Fuck it, I'll take shots at everybody, because I don't care. What do I care? JD from New York just shitting on Denise Salcedo's parade. Dude, what did she ever fucking do to you? Why should I even care what she did to you or what you perceived she did to you? Because she actually gets invited to fucking media scrums because she's not trying to start an argument and you always do? Because you are so much of a perfectionist that you have to have it your way or the highway and nobody else can have a different fucking opinion and you can't work together on shit. You just have to... Oh, I don't get invited to scrums, but she does because she kisses ass. That's this whole fucking argument. I shouldn't fucking know that. I shouldn't give a shit. Why does that have to be on my fucking timeline? Why should I give a shit about what two podcasters ever say about each other? Why should I give a shit? Fans argue with fans. Wrestlers argue with fans. Wrestlers argue with other wrestlers. It's just shit. It's awful. I've never seen an industry more toxic than pro wrestling. Never in a million years. And fuck me, we've dealt with Activision Blizzard. Seriously, folks. Like, that's the level, like, when Activision Blizzard's only, like, big thing is they make not the greatest games all the time, and they had a fucking scandal, which they fired everyone involved in, or mostly everybody involved in. Jesus Christ. When you're worse than that, considering the scandal that they were busted for, that's horrible. When you're worse than the My Little Pony fandom, and I say that because most of the My Little Pony fans aren't fucking pedophiles. right? But the ones that are, and they make a big deal out of it in the media. But most fans of that aren't pedophiles. Fuck me. Like, wrestling is just full of fucking shithouse. It's a shithouse. Really. Like, I can't find one redeeming quality except for the shit that people are putting out on TV, and then it gets shit on, and then they fucking try to fire back, and then it's just back and forth, and then it's like the people I think are good, oh, now they're getting into drama. Like, fucking Booker T is a prime example, and how the IWC just takes everything he says ever out of context. They do it with tons of people, not just with Booker, but it's like, it's endless. It's fucking endless. It really is. The Punk shit is just really the straw that broke the camel's back for me. It's really it. I mean, I've really wanted to just leave this shit cold turkey for a long time and abandon it. I just didn't know how you guys would feel, because that's how I built my audience. That's how I built my reputation on this platform for 10 plus years, quite frankly. Was fucking wrestling. And music that involved wrestling themes. Or wrestling personalities. That's how I got my name here. You know, so... Shit, man. I mean... That's hard to leave. Especially when it's all you've known for like the last 2 decades. But the reality is, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not. I'm 20. You gotta remember, folks. I'm about to turn 28 at the end of September. Right? I feel like I'm 40. I feel like I've aged 10 years because of all the shit I've gone through with pro wrestling. I really do. Like, I'm not fucking around. Like, I really don't feel like I'm physically my best at all. I know that's like a meme where it's like, I'm too old for this shit. I'm tired. I'm 28. I'm about to be 28, and I'm tired. It was 27 back then. I said it over and over again, and it was a meme at that point. But no, I'm like, when I say that, as memed as it's become, I'm serious, guys. Like, I feel just tired all the time. Exhausted. Dude, I went to a friend's party and I fell asleep because of how overworked I made myself covering this horse shit. I really was. Because I just wanted wrestling to be what I grew up with as a fucking child. You know? And I think if social media wasn't around, I think it could be that. But social media ain't going anywhere. So either it goes or I go. And I know which one's easier. Even though it's still going to be hard as shit. He really, like, this sucks. When it's been 2 decades of your life and you've seen it morph and change and not do great, and you've threatened to quit and you've threatened to leave, like, apparently Mike has kept tally like 14 times. I think it's fucking over exaggerated, but it was definitely a lot of times where I've threatened to fucking quit. Dude. Why would I want to stick around with this? Like, I had an opportunity. I have golden tickets to probably go to any wrestling company that I want to. You'll never catch me dead working for wrestling. You'll never catch me dead doing wrestling, period, if I get my way. Which leads into the rest of everything, really. Don't have much I can plug. Other than character select, which I definitely want to do. WYW, which is still going to be an ongoing thing, and it will be the only piece of wrestling content I personally work on. And 2 different retros that I already pre-planned and put in the schedule. That I already said I was going to do and made an announcement I was going to do, because I'm not a guy who false advertises. Because I actually give a fuck about the little views that we actually get. And then this and the watch party and the wrestling rundown. If that is even going to fucking happen at this point, because if we can get enough people that Zero's hosting. What's the fucking point? All of our content's based around wrestling. You know, like, really break it down. Like, even Indie Force has wrestling topics every now and again. And I think at this point, none of us really want to do FTW Productions because of a lot of this fucking bullshit. I'm not passionate about it. I know Mike's done with it. I know Nikos is done with it. Jack has been done with it. He's just kind of done it to humor me. You know, and fucking a lot of people are just done. Zero was ready. He was excited, and then shit happened. I mean, really, shit happened there too. Y'all know the story. I mean, it was obvious. I'm not gonna even call out anybody and fucking start any more drama because I'm tired. And again, if you know, you know. And unlike the fucking last few people that I fucking actually called out that I've worked with in the fucking past, I actually have a high level of respect for how they handle their shit, even if they disagree with each other. It's just fucking, it's a lot, man. It really is a lot to deal with. And I've been dealing with it for 2 decades. I've probably been dealing with it a little bit longer and not even realized it. Like, just to put it in perspective for you people, like, the first wrestling event I ever saw when I was super little was 1997. The Montreal Screwjob. That was my first exposure to this shit. I mean, fuck me. You know, when that's your first exposure, and then, like, you see where I've gone with it, and really, I've gotten nowhere with the podcasting shit. I mean, people cared more about my theme edits than they did my my podcasting. But I'm gonna be real with you folks. If you're like, well, why don't you go back to what made you popular? I have no passion to do anything wrestling other than WYW. That's what I'm truly passionate about. Even if it gets less views than fucking the WYW or just the theme edits do. Really, like, even if that gets less views, I couldn't give a shit. Seriously, I have no desire to cover any modern wrestling ever again. Because it has left me mentally and physically exhausted. I'm tired of being angry all the time. And wrestling always pisses me off. It always finds a way to grind my fucking gears. It really does. Even when I try to be the most positive fucking person ever, I turned out I'm an idiot. Or something just, they just keep berating you with negativity and negativity until you just finally fucking snap. And I've snapped far too long to give a fuck anymore. Really. And truthfully, the only reason the watch parties even existed was because we had advertised it, number one, with Collision and All Out. And number two, because I wanted Tony Khan to hear what the fuck he has done to this industry with the firing of Phil. And how he thinks it's going to solve this issue, when in reality it's a small issue that's a microcosm of a bigger problem within the industry. You know, and the whole thing that Jack and I argued about was because he said it's not that deep when I said I was just done with it. I disagree because I think, you know, if you saw Aubrey's face, you'd be like, oh man, oh, this kind of sucks seeing something like that, you know? But even then, it's just like, it's a deep-rooted issue within this community. It really is. And I think it really do get why John Tuddy left. And really, like, I can't even get the guy to do voice acting work, you know, for the life of me. I can't. I've called him. And I think it's just because he's completely detoxed himself from pro wrestling. He wants nothing to do with it. There are times where we get him on a retro and then we talk about stuff and then we don't see him for like another month because he's got bigger fish to fry, quite frankly. Congratulations, by the way, on the marriage, my good sir. You know, but like, shit, man. Like, God knows how much content we've done. Seriously, like, and it's just some iteration of the same bullshit we complain about. It really does feel that way. I'm tired of it. I really am. I'm tired of it. You know, and God bless Jeff and Noah, because while I don't blame any of them, JJ too, while I don't blame any of them mostly, even the guests we had on, you know, like, something negative most weeks. Like, maybe, like, you know, and that's it. Like, the only time, like, and I'm not even kidding, like, there is no reason for me to go into something and just be hearing any negativity about an industry that I just don't have any passion for and don't have any love anymore. And this is not against the workers. This is not against the people I've worked with. Even the people that I've had issues with. The people I've called out on this podcast. I'm just sick of all of it. I am. And, you know, it's just, I want to have fun. And I'm not getting any younger. I want to go out and I want to explore my opportunities. I want to go and get a fucking job that's decent paying, that is this line of work. Editing, video making. Hell, getting an entry-level position at a fucking studio or something. Like, something. I have a fucking bachelor's degree, for crying out loud. You know, like, I'm not even saying that to brag. It's just like, I've wasted my life, I feel like, so much of my life on pro wrestling. And it's become a part of my identity that is going to be so hard to shake full on. But, like, you know what's fucking... And this is the fucked up part. Here's the fucked up part. I've never been more interested in Star Wars in my life because Mike... We were all just chilling and Mike was showing shit about Star Wars and I've never been more enthralled with it in my life. Because I felt relieved not having to even think about that shit. About wrestling. And I enjoyed what I was seeing because it was entertaining. It was lightsaber fights. It was backstory and lore and all that shit. And we were watching fucking the Nikos's like culture, even though it was just a bunch of people arguing about freaking Muslim politics and getting angry. It was intriguing. And it was like, oh, this is different, but also sad, but cool. I know not to deal with that. And you know what the funny thing is? Even if it was negative, boop, went right on to Star Wars. It's like, well, it was negative, but I don't have to fucking worry about it, so why do I give a shit? Bro, how often have we tried to move on from that Punk situation and it wasn't that easy? Just in context, people. Like, you see my point? Like, that's what it is, you know? Fuck, Casey and I were listening to fucking AI covers. Listening to Frank Sinatra AI cover of, freaking Green Day, a Green Day song. I forget the name of it, but it slaps. Been listening to fucking Glorb and shit. Like, I'm just really interested in the AI stuff. You know, I have other interests. You know, most people don't even realize it, but I love NASCAR. I gave like a little taste of it a couple weeks ago on Stat Boy Sports Bar. Like, I'm very much knowledgeable in what the hell's going on in NASCAR. You know, for the most part. I'm very much casual nowadays just because I think the management... very similar to how pro wrestling kind of ran me off. The management was a bit rough. And now the management's improved significantly since that time. But yeah, like... I'm a NASCAR guy, you know? I was an MMA guy. Really like the Fight Night games. You know, I am a gamer. I am a casual gamer, but I am a gamer. Like, I've played Fight Night, love the Fight Night series. I'd love to do a fucking Let's Play of shit like that. I'd love to do a Let's Play of the campaign in Fight Night Champions one day, and maybe that will be a Let's Play we all do together one day. If we do come back to FTW Productions, I'd just like the game, really. Do button mashers, maybe exclusively. Like, really. You know, and I love I love Smash Brothers. Everybody knows how much of a fan I am of the PMEX Remix mod, you know, of Smash Brothers Brawl. I've made no secret about that, but I have other interests. NASCAR as well. I mean, I did gaming. I did a whole freaking Let's Play on the NASCAR 2004 season mode, and I had a blast, except for the end where Daytona Beach fucked me up, but, you know, they pay no attention to that. You know, I just... And just talking about it, like, makes me smile. The Star Wars shit with Mike tonight and the fucking Greek stuff with Nikos. Freaking a week prior, we were laughing at Nikos's, there's, like, regalia that they wear, with which they have afro shoes, and then they have, like, a weird, like, march. We were just going nuts about it and geeking. So was Nikos. So don't come at me. Don't say I'm a racist, because he was laughing too. But yeah, no, like, just, I don't know, like, shit like that. I'm into weather. I'm super into weather. Shit, man, like, me and Jesse, one of these days, maybe if I do come back with FTW and do shit on FTW, maybe that will be, you know, her and I will do a weather show or some shit. Like, Jesse Davin, by the way, for those who were wondering. I know she's super into weather too. You know, and yeah, it's just, I'm way more interested in that shit. And don't get me wrong, I have wrestlers I like still. And again, I have wrestlers I dislike, but, like, it's nothing against the workers. This is management that just ran me off. It's not even just management. It's the IWC. It's the toxicity of it all. There's always something. And, like, there's bright moments where I enjoy it. And then, like, when you think you can enjoy something, like All In is a great example of this. Just when you think you can enjoy something, wham. You know, like, pretend this mouse pad is the rug, right? Whoom. Rug pulled right out from under you every time. You know, it's just frustrating, man. It really is. Like, All In... I wish that was my last wrestling show. If I didn't advertise it, it would have been. And that's another thing. I feel like there's always an obligation to do content like that. And I don't want to do that type of content anymore. Because it's just so fucking taxing and tiring. So, yeah, man, like, I have a lot of other interests that I don't think people are. I am interested in editing, quite frankly. Like, even if it was a wrestling production that I was editing for, right? And I'm specifically talking about friends of mine that I respect that I'm doing edits for. Like the NoDQ.com revamped intro, or for Aaron, and the Jeff Meacham Network Multiverse of Media, the Statboy Sports Bar intro, which does have pro wrestling elements sprinkled in there. The Open Mic Night intro. I just like to edit. Right? That's it. I'm a huge editor. Big time editor. Or I try to be. Semi-big. I don't know. But I, like, edit a lot. You know? Not, like, big as in, like, I'm a big time editor, but I edit a lot. I'm editing for stuff right now as we speak that I'm actually going to get paid for. So, like, I like editing. I really do. It's not even just something I want to do for a job. It's a hobby of mine. Really, it really is a hobby of mine. I love holding the camera. I love getting the good shots. I love all that shit. I like movies. Fucking Top Gun Maverick, still one of my favorite movies of all time. Oppenheimer was a great movie that the boys and I got to see when it came out in theaters, and like, man, this on and on and on and on and on. Like, I could go on for real. Yeah, like, it's just, I got better interests. I got better things to do with my time. So that's what I'll be doing. You know, is try to figure out what I want to do content on and not be overcritical and not be a douchebag about it. And just enjoy life for a bit. Not be on camera as much. So, yeah, I mean, that said, I'm not on open mic night with the exception of karaoke nights, because I ain't missing those. Especially the holiday one. Fuck that. I'm not missing that for the life of me. But, Disney karaoke too. But I'm not on weekly open mic nights anymore. I'm not doing watch-along coverage anymore. I already let Jeff Meacham know. He's been very supportive of that decision. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. Yeah, man. Like, I just have no interest. You know? It's one of those things. One of those things, you know? So, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a hard process, but it won't be as hard as I think. Hell, Mistress gave me a new hobby. ASMR. Never thought I'd hear myself say that, but, like, storytelling ASMR, I really like. So maybe I'll do something like that. Maybe I'll actually make this ASMR edits on this channel. Who knows? Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Like, there's stuff that I do want to do. There's other interests that I have. Big time, you know? And I think that is sprinkled around there, but it's like I'm primarily known for wrestling. I just don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be known as the wrestling guy anymore. And it's going to be hard to shake that off, but that's why I'm taking the hiatus, you know? Because I know it's not going to be happening right away. Like, if I were to start content tomorrow and then change my entire outlook, that's going to be weird. I mean, the only thing that I have guaranteed is, like, character select, which is not a wrestling-related thing. That's a gaming thing. It's just letting AI beat the shit out of each other in fighting games that Zero and I are going to be launching. So, like, I don't have much I can promote on anything. On Jeff Meacham Network, on NoDQ, or FTW at all. Like, other than Noah will be doing FTW content and Jeff Meacham Network shit. Owen will be doing FTW related content. And then, other than that, I got nothing, bro. Like, I don't know what the future holds for FTW at this point. Mistress as well, Zero with the CAW shit. I don't know what else you got, really. Because there was so much wrestling involved. Like, almost a metric fuck ton of wrestling content. Yeah, man, like, it's just, I don't know. I really don't know, but, you know, I remember Jeff Meacham, you know, and this is kind of what it is for me. It's like, he always talks about, like, with Punk, don't pretend that it's just the company that made you sick of wrestling. Just say the industry made you sick. I think the industry has made a lot of people sick. And I'm one of them. And you can't get better just staying stuck in the same industry that's caused you so much misery for so long. You know, it's like a never-ending abusive relationship. Lord knows I know how that feels like. So why continue to be abused by the industry that I used to love and clearly won't ever love me back? You know? So yeah. I think that's it. I think that's literally everything I got off my chest. I feel pretty damn good that I did. I'm sure I'll get some beef. Whatever. I'm gonna ignore it. I'll block whoever wants to have beef with me on the Twitter or wherever. But yeah, that's another thing. For people who think I'm not taking this seriously and then I'm gonna be coming back. Oh, you'll be back, bro. Mike can confirm. I've been unsubscribing and fucking hitting the do not fucking subscribe. In fact, I'll do it right now. I'll do it with a couple. And by the way, when I show these, no disrespect to anybody that I unsubscribe to. In most cases, like, don't think I'm just disrespecting you just because I really am trying to clean out all of my feeds. And I'm starting with like YouTube. So like I'm keeping like old school legacy wrestling content, and I'm keeping it at that, and then any modern shit I'm getting rid of. So let's see here. Yeah, like Inside the Ropes. Love Kenny McIntosh, right? I do. I do love Kenny McIntosh, but here, you know what? Yeah, let me do this. Alrighty. See, don't recommend channel. Done. That's what I've been doing, man. Slowly but surely, it's gonna take me God knows how long, like months probably. But like I have been doing it. And again, no disrespect to any content creators on there. I know the grind. You know, whether it's a hobby or you're legit making money off it. Trust me, I know the grind to a degree. But yeah, man, like I no desire anymore. I'm tapped out. You know, and I think, you know, the moral of the story really is, like, the world is already going through enough bullshit. Don't harm people's enjoyment and constantly be a rain on people's parade. I need to get better at that my goddamn self. Not just with wrestling, but with other stuff. But no amount of anger management is going to help me. Really, until I get rid of the toxic shit in my life, whether it was intended or not. And wrestling has been the biggest cancer, and I need to remove it. And that's how it is. It's nothing to do with the workers. It's nothing to do with anybody. That's within the industry. It's just there's so much fucking negativity. And I'm just ready to do other shit. And actually have a life. Really. That's really what it comes down to. I don't know how else to put it, man. Just have a life. You know? I might not even have this backdrop anymore, now that I think about it. I might get rid of some of this shit. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it up just for aesthetic purposes if I'm ever on camera, but, like, yeah, man. I'm rambling on, but before I do, I do want to say thank you all so much for all the support you've ever given us, for FTW Productions, for Jeff Beacham Network, Multiverse of Media. Thank you all so much for even getting me to a point where I was doing stuff that I thought I loved, even if I was lying to myself. Like, you guys did help me in a lot of ways. Just watching my shit, commenting on my shit, it always made me feel good. And like, hey, you know what? That guy, I made that guy's day. I made that girl's day. And as long as I did that somehow, some way, throughout all this fucking madness, I just want to say thank you. I do. So, yeah. For the first time in a long time, really. You won't be seeing me on any JHebert side. At least for a very long while. And when I do, it ain't going to be about pro wrestling. But until a very long time and in a very distant future, see you guys around. Really, you guys don't have to pay attention to this credit scene anymore. I'm realizing that there's stuff that I'm going to be plugging, I'm sure, but it's probably just legacy shit I've done in the past, so. Yeah, I mean, if you want to check that out, go ahead. But yeah, guys, see you around. I'm out.